Look at that. Infiniti HR. Thank you both for joining me.
Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
So tell me a little bit about Infiniti HR. I've been out of the industry a long time. I've not heard of you guys, so I apologize. Mm-hmm. So this is a great chance for me to learn more what you do.
Yes. So Infiniti HR, we are a PEO. That stands for Professional Employer Organization. We are a PEO essentially is a company that does payroll, taxes, full HR, full workers' comp, safety programs, for Fortune 500 health benefits, all the voluntary benefits. And what's really cool is we've got about 80,000 worksite employees in our pool.
Wow.
So it allows small and medium-sized companies to join our pool and really kind of have an all-in-one stop to take care of a lot of these services that are required for their industry. And we've been around for about 17 years. Okay. I live in Northern California. Brian's out of Colorado. Hello. But our corporate's based out of Columbia, Maryland, and we are based in we do cover all 50 states.
Okay, so U.S. based primarily then.
Correct, yeah. U.S. based. Our support teams all U.S. based as well.
That's good. So why would somebody use an organization like yourself? Because it sounds like they have to take their employees. Are they still employed by the company, or do you take them on and they're employed by you? How does all that work?
That's a great question. It's actually called co-employment.
Okay.
So they've got full control over their employees from pre-hire to fire, retire. The reason why people are looking more at the PEO model is because by coming on board with us, we're taking a lot of the liability off of their plate from a compliance standpoint. Mm-hmm. But they've got full control. We're really just taking over the compliance pieces and giving them guidance and supporting with not only like recruiting or hiring, but if they have to terminate someone, or there's always recent changes in state and federal labor laws that are changing. Most of my shredding companies or different verticals we work with, they're so busy running their organization, their corporation, that they don't, a lot of times things slip through the cracks and it opens themselves up for exposure.
So can you give me a real example of a compliance where a kind of a sole operator could have a problem, something concrete that maybe you've seen? Because I always think real examples are fun as case studies to learn from.
Oh my God, it's endless.
So many.
I'm gonna pass it over to Brian. I'm sure he has a few, but a couple of that have come up for my shredding companies that I work for specifically. I have shredding companies that operate in multiple states, and they have to file with the states for unemployment, things like that, make sure they're registered correctly. And sometimes they miss it. The other thing is terminating someone. They're not quite sure how to terminate someone, wrongful termination, retaliation. Mm-hmm. Also, sometimes if you have to terminate somebody, when to cut the check, how to cut the check. What else?
Yeah, there's a lot, and every state operates a little bit differently, and so that's why, especially for organizations that have employees in other states, especially in the virtual world that we're in now, it's important to have a grasp on the compliance for each of those states that you're employing people. So that's one of the aspects and one of the reasons why companies look at a PEO, so they can sort of offload that onto us. That's what we do. That's the administrative support that we provide. But I think our biggest goal is to allow an entrepreneur or a small business owner to worry about their business, grow your revenue, achieve your goals, and we partner on the back end to sort of reduce the administrative burdens and just allow them to not just save time, but save money, but save time, right? And so the compliance aspect and the administrative relief that we provide is just one of the core services I think that we're looking to offer.
Yeah, and I mean that's fantastic for the operator. I mean I've been fortunate enough to work, run my own business, work for a small private company, and then work for multinationals, huge multinationals who have huge HR departments. That took care of all of that for me. So they were doing what you're able to offer for that smaller company then.
Yeah. And to that note too, one of the coolest things I always talk about probably several times is that we compete with those big, those big giant companies that are out there that everyone knows their names. They're big payroll companies. And one of, I think, our selling points and one of the reasons why I love working for Infiniti is that we're a privately owned company, and yeah, we've been around 18 years, but we don't have, 9 layers of management. We don't have a board of shareholders that sort of muddy the water a lot of the times and complicate things. And so we can be very flexible and understanding. And it's just something that it's great to work for a company that has that culture, and it goes right to our clients.
It's definitely nice in the private company environment, isn't it? So for an operator, I see all those benefits now. I take all that compliance burden off my shoulders. I've got an advisor when I have an issue, maybe it's a termination or something. If I've got staff across the country, I don't have to worry about the different jurisdictions and understanding all that. We all know California law, for example, can be very interesting.
Very tricky.
Yeah. But what about for the employee? So when an operator turns around and says, "Hey, this is what's going on. I got the acronym, the PEO. Sorry, I've learned the acronym. So we're going to be working with a PEO." I could imagine a lot of the employees at first might be very nervous about that. What's going on? Is my contract changing? And so tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's a pretty smooth process. The employees don't often really know that they're with a PEO. Again, they're still your employees. And we don't take that away. And ultimately, what we kind of do is the back end stuff. So we're working with the administrators, the controllers, the C levels maybe. But the employees, it's business as usual, and they don't know. They don't need to really know. But there's no difference in their day-to-day jobs. I think maybe the only difference would be some of the benefits that they're receiving, like their medical, their dental, their 401k, some of that stuff. A lot of that stuff is administered through us, and in doing so, they're getting better options.
That's what
which is a huge point.
Yeah,
I was just going to add. So a lot of the clients we deal with, some of them do have long-term employees, and they're very concerned about what they're going to think.
Yeah.
They don't want them to leave. So we have this conversation with them, and we talk about it. Like we develop a relationship with the clients. They have our cell phone numbers, and they're like, what are we going to do here?
Company, yeah,
and I think that's another differentiator with us. We want them to text us and call us and email. We want them to feel comfortable. But what I tell them is that, look, you told me this is what your key things were. A lot of times they're looking at us so they can help the employees. They want to offer an employee assistance program.
Yeah.
They want to put in that 401k.
Okay.
They want to talk about, do they want to do profit sharing? Do they want to match? But the big thing is health benefits. A lot of this industry, some offer benefits, but a lot don't. So they'll say, we don't want them to freak out about us switching companies. Yeah. So we talk about word tracks and reasonings as to, hey, look, your top 25% of employees have been asking for a 401k. They've been asking for this to be covered with health benefits. That's why you're transitioning to us. So we also have employee hotlines, helplines to walk them through, make them feel comfortable. So I think that's a great question, because ultimately, I think the hardest part is finding the right employees, but then how do you retain them? You retain them by, having a really great culture where they want to stay. They want to be able to take care of not only themselves, but their family. And, so many people here, they have their wives, they have their kids. And that's one of the big things that a PEO allows them to do.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like what I was thinking, is that from an employee standpoint, things like health benefits, which are just, I think mine went up 22% this year.
Oh,
They're just skyrocketing up. It's like, how can you offer that to your employees when you've got, if you're a small business, you may only have 7 or 10 or 15. You don't get the benefit of the numbers, which you can then bring to that party.
Yeah. I think the other thing that's really great is I'm working with one of the shredding companies now, and we're really diving in deep. He's like, well, I've been with the same doctor for 25 years. I want to make sure that your health plans have my doctor. So we even go a step further and we have a doc find process because we want to make sure their local hospitals are on our plans. Are there doctors on our plans? Because we're not here to disrupt things. We're really just here to streamline it, help them save a little bit of money, and really make sure it works for them.
That's really getting into the detail, though, of knowing your customer to make sure that you're responding for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excuse me. So if a company now, so let's say I was running my own company and I've got that 7-10 employees and I wanted to think about this, what typically is the steps that they would go through? I think reach out, obviously, but what would you go through? How long would it typically take for this transition to take place?
I'll pass it back to you in a minute, but I think the big thing is it depends on when their current health insurance renews.
Yep.
What is their timeline? It doesn't really matter to us. So Infiniti only hires people with 10 plus years experience. So it's not a rush. It's more like, what's going on with you? What's important to you? I know you want to talk a little bit about
I think that's a great question because a lot of clients come to us and they have multiple sort of triggers that are the reason as to why they're coming to us. And a lot of it does revolve around their medical plans. So when do their medical plans renew? Although it does not matter, it doesn't have to. Yes, or if they don't offer, maybe they want to offer medical, or maybe it's their workers' comp plan. There's a number of different sort of triggers that bring the client to us. But the benefit, really, it doesn't matter to us. Your example was you have a small business, 7 to 10 employees. Unlike almost any PEO that's out there, Infiniti does not have any restrictions whatsoever. And there's always a size requirement. You got to have 7 to 10 usually is about that number. And then when you offer medical, pretty much a lot of the PEOs require a certain amount of participation. So they need to have a certain amount of lives on that plan. And again, with Infiniti, there's no size requirement. There's no medical participation requirement. We can take 1 out of 50 employees that want, if that's what it is, no problem. And we can put them on our master United Healthcare plans, which are nationwide options, which you just simply can't get otherwise. So it's really cool. It makes us a great, unique option in the market. And then, sometimes they don't want to offer medical, or maybe workers' comp is tricky, or maybe, 401k, whatever it is. We can kind of carve things out and sort of customize, a custom option for them. So it does not have to be a comprehensive package. Although it certainly can be, but it makes us unique.
Yeah, but they could grow with you. So it might be just the benefits is where they start, and then they can grow as it feels, fit and necessary in order to, as you say, as I think you mentioned at the beginning, which is they need to concentrate on growing their business, not get wrapped up in all these compliance issues and everything. Another thing, another benefit that's just come into my mind is I had a very large workforce, and retention of staff is so hard. And so again, being able to now offer programs where you can compete, where a member of staff might be looking at a different company, you can now offer, or an organization working with you could now offer these benefits, 401k plans. Which now makes them much more attractive in the employment market.
Yeah, in our industry, we always say attract and retain, and these are tools that an employer will use to attract the best talent out there and retain your talent, so you can grow. And that's certainly, and that's why companies offer these things, right? Is so they can provide for their employees and make it a good marketplace for them to work and make a living and grow their family. So absolutely.
Otherwise, they're not competitive. They're not. I had 2 clients I met with last week, and they said that their employees had children that were going through some issues, and they really needed some additional support with counseling and things like that.
Yep.
And I said, well, don't you have an employee assistance program? How do you currently do that? You can get that through your health insurance. You can get it through employee assistance programs. And she goes, we don't have any of that.
Wow.
And we lost 2 of our key players. So, everybody's so different, but when you lose some of your key employees, that hurts. And then you have to start the whole circle again of having to recruit, how to train, how to find your unemployment rates going up. So it affects your taxes. So it's so many things snowball into other components of the business. And I've done this for about 17 years, and I really feel like I make a difference with the clients that I work with, and every client's different, as to how we help them.
Yeah. Well, I really like your approach because it means that I can kind of reach out and just explore the option. There's no pressure, learn a little bit about it. And then if I feel comfortable, maybe introduce or look at one area of my business I could move over. And then you start to build that relationship. And then you're gonna earn their trust to grow, as opposed to saying, trust us with everything right from the beginning as well.
Yeah.
So what would be one thing that you think companies are not paying attention to today? It's always the kind of awkward last question. What's the one thing that you think they're not paying attention to today that you could really help them to focus on?
There's so many.
Yeah. I like it to be a tricky question.
I'll give Brian, so I do think a huge thing we can differentiate ourselves right now that people need help with is recruiting. Yep. This industry especially has high turnover with drivers.
I can imagine.
We've got standard applicant tracking. All businesses have that, but really our differentiator is recruitment process outsourcing. It's amazing. Recruitment process outsourcing, we allow the clients to tell us exactly what's going on, where their problem is, how much turnover they're having, what are the do's and don'ts, what are the requirements, how much do they have to lift, how many hours are they sitting, where they're traveling to. And we can take that information and we can cast a broad net over 400 premium job boards. And these are the ones that you're paying top dollar to put your company in front of. And then as soon as an applicant hits that or fills out the information, our PO division will contact them within 20 minutes, do a full online phone call with them, and filter them, which takes so much time for these business owners that they don't have. Filter them. And if they meet their criteria, they can actually schedule that interview on the Calendly link with that hiring manager or the owner of the company and really cut down time and money that's spent with that. I know you want to talk about that.
That's huge. No, that's huge.
I think you nailed it. It's a huge thing. It's something that we do. It's included in our services, and it's just a cream on, cream of the crop. Yeah. The cherry on top. That's what I'm trying to say.
Policies, handles, HR
microphone.
is also big. I was just going to say, and Brian can talk about this, but I think the other differentiator that I hear is this industry does not always have the proper HR infrastructure in place with policies and documentation, non-solicitations, things like that. I think you really need to try to be bulletproof as much as possible with any business. You want to add to that?
I think you did a great job.
You did it. I think you both did a great job. I'm really grateful for you, joining us. I've learned an awful lot, and like I said, I didn't know about PEOs, so I've been educated, which I'm very, very happy about. I'm sure people can come and find you on the trade show floor. So if they're here, and people who couldn't make it to the show but will be either listening to the podcast or watching this later, they can reach out through the website, which is?
Absolutely. www.infinityhr.com. It's Infinity with all I's. It's a little tricky. INFINITI. HR.com.
Brilliant. Eva and Brian, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Ian. Thank you, Ian. It was a pleasure.